gentlemen, Mr. Andre Katz. Yeah, have a seat. Coming up next, Ice Larry Bagby. You know him as the voice of Thackeray Banks, Jason Marsden! And his sister, Emily Banks, Amanda Shepard! Please welcome Allison Watts, Miss Vanessa Shaw. All right, I know there's one more back there. Was it Billy? Billy Butcher? Ladies and gentlemen, Billy Butcherson! The cast of Hocus Pocus, what do you think?
A memorable moment or time from the movie that you forever remember, or something we don't know about.
Which movie are we talking about? I have a fun memory that's kind of not, it wasn't, now it's fun. I had a video camera when I was on set. Like, we didn't have the phones where everybody was filming, right? I just had like a pretty large Canon A1 digital, and I just thought it was okay that I filmed whatever on set while I wasn't being filmed myself. And I got in trouble by, what was the witch's name, the main witch? Oh, Bette Midler. Yeah, Winifred. Yeah, so I have the footage of her like, catching me, and I just dropped the camera. Tobias was right next to me laughing, of course. But I have that memory, and it scares me to this day.
That girl is really excited about it.
What was all of your guys' favorite part of the film?
Mine was when he brings the witches back. Because it was all practical effects, and you don't see that anymore, obviously. And I mean, this was actually literally the first movie where you could see a talking cat, and it wasn't like Toonces, if anybody knows from Saturday Night Live. Meow, meow, you know. So it looked good. And we were introduced to this new technology. It was fantastic. But the practical part of when we brought back the witches was so amazing for me, because you really had the wood moving, you know, the floorboards moving. You had the green lights coming out of the floor. You had the wind blowing and the pops of the lights, and it just felt so real. And I remember hearing Kenny Ortega, correct me if I'm wrong, just yelling over it like, "And now the witches are coming in the door." It's just like so intense. So everything you feel was true to life. Like, we didn't have to act much. Everything was pretty much there for us in real, true to form. So that was the best part for me, and it's exciting every time I watch it. And I just loved doing the actual scene.
Well, I'll add to that. My favorite scene to film was the second scene that we filmed, which I think is the second scene of the movie. We're on the back lot at Warner, and they had all the kids and the trick-or-treaters, and I got to smash like 7 or 8 pumpkins, legally, and so it was just so fun to watch. And also, now that, like I said, I had my camera, of course, and I think I gave it to my parents to film us while we were shooting that scene. I got footage of all you guys, which we'll at some point make some money on. Like all the bride viewers. But it was so fun to see now what you remember when you get to see it again and watching Kenny and knowing that like those kids had to go home and he's like, we're on a schedule, we gotta get this done now. But he managed to just get it done, and it was so fun to work with it with all the kids. And,
That scene looked so choreographed and it was so fun because it was like felt like one take. I never got to ask you about it. I'll ask you about it later.
Actually, my favorite scene has to be going to heaven.
Of course.
And it was actually really interesting because when we filmed it, it looked nothing like heaven. We literally were walking on mirrors, like on it almost looked like a runway, and I thought, how are they going to turn this into heaven? But they did. Yeah,
That's Hollywood heaven. I loved when I cut my mouth open for the very first time and got to spit out my diatribe at Bette Midler. The original script had one word there. I was only going to cut my mouth open and say, bitch. So, me not being as comfortable with that, being a Disney kids film, is that really what we want to, is that really what wins over the kids, to let them know I'm on their side? So I pitched to Kenny Ortega, our director, what if I went on a little bit of a rant? Because I have 300 years of pent-up anger toward this woman. So that's when I wrote on the spot myself, "Wench, trollop, you buck-toothed mop-right firefly from hell!"
17 years back. Like, seriously, you made our year.
Mr. Tony Caesar! Playing the part of Palmer in The Thing, David Clennon! Mr. Peter Maloney, everybody! Windows, Thomas G. Waits. And ladies and gentlemen, he was Child's Mr. Keith David. So I know that we're going to have a lot of questions for these guys. I'm just going to kind of start off with one. Actually, it's for you, Keith.
Yes.
The ending scene in the movie where it's just you and Max sitting there and you're basically like, all right, so it's the two of us, it's down to us. Who would have taken the other one out? Like, who would have beat each other's ass in the fight for survival?
When you're that cold for that long, nobody's ass is being beat.
This is for Keith David. So, really, who was the thing at the end?
It's so if you think so. First of all, it was 40 years ago. Second of all, as far as and fellas, correct me if I'm wrong, if the thing took over your being, it would be unbeknownst to us consciously. They would have taken over us and become us, or imitating us to the point where no one else would know who we were until its existence was threatened. Then it would reveal itself as the alien. That's what I think. So I wouldn't know. you know, it would have absorbed me, so me in my own consciousness wouldn't really be me. It'd be somebody pretending to be me. Or something like that.
This part is, are you guys gonna listen to Gary? Are you gonna let him give the orders? Because it could be one of those things. The first question that I had. I know, yeah. But my second question is, what is it like to talk about this movie 40 years later? Did you ever think that you would be here, that it would have the effect that it's had? I mean, I feel it's a masterpiece, and there are a lot of people here that I think feel the same way when you're making it. Did you know that it was...
David?
Bill Lancaster wrote 12 really distinct characters. That was quite a challenge, and all male, even more of a challenge. Because men are so much less interesting. So you got 12 males, and he managed to make them distinct characters, I thought, with unique qualities and memorable qualities, and he introduced them one by one, and you got to know them, got to see them, and get a fix on who they were. Even Benny, who was so boring. Maybe that was his most distinctive feature. But, you came to this convention. You're here.
Yeah, why would I bother? I don't know.
You really stood out in this movie. You were memorable. So then we finished shooting the picture, or John finished shooting the picture, and went into post-production editing, and he cut a lot of those little moments that people had, that the characters had, not the actors, the characters had moments that helped to define them and helped make them memorable in our minds as we watched the film. But John cut a lot of that stuff because he wanted to move rapidly to the first exposure of the monster. And I thought that was, I thought that would hurt the film a little bit, because a picture like this rests on you having feelings about a character who is suddenly in peril, and you don't want that character to be in peril, or at least you want to know who that character is that's about to be absorbed by the thing or eaten alive by the alien. And so I wasn't sure that happened, and I reckon I was wrong about that, because people love the picture, and I think that everybody pretty much, you could tell me if you ever felt when you watched the film that you didn't quite know who this guy was. I'm actually really curious to know if anybody in the community of people who love the film, who ever had that feeling.
If any of you have any Wilford Brimley stories, I'm sure we'd love to hear it.
Wilford Brimley. Well, Wilford was very happy to be working on the Universal lot because he had been kicked off the Universal lot and told that he was never, ever to darken the doors of Universal again. So he was extremely pleased that he was on the Universal lot and earning money and in a movie. And he lived in Utah in a ranch, and I think one of the first things he said to me is I got off the plane and came to work from New York City on the East Coast of the United States. He said to me, you know, we got the death penalty in Utah. And he said, you can sign up to be the executioner. And I have signed up. And I didn't know this guy from Adam, and I didn't know if this was a warning or just sort of like a clue to his character. And so he took a fair amount of delight. There were a few of us brought from New York by John and the producers to be in the movie. So we got to California, we were given a fair amount of money per diem and given a car and a tank full of gas, and we were very happy to be employed. But Wilford took great delight in, you could never tell when he was teasing, because he didn't like laugh at the end at his own material or his own delivery. He didn't know if he was teaching or not, but he was talked to us about what a hero Senator Joe McCarthy had been during the Blacklist days. And he recognized in certain of us in that group from New York City on the East Coast of America, a liberal tendency which was not his tendency. But he was, he was such a wonderful actor. He was one of the few actors who I've known who does not ever seem to be acting, as opposed to myself, who always seems to be acting, even when I'm not working. So one day he had an audition for a movie. So he went on lunch, our lunch, he took a cab or drove over to this audition. And he met it was not an audition because Wilford didn't audition. And this Australian director says, we would love to hear you read. And he says, oh, I don't do that. He said, what do you mean you don't do that? He says, I don't read. Here I am, you look at my work in the past and you decide on whether you want me or not. And he said, well, I don't know if this man can play a Texan in this movie. And the director says to the producer who's sitting in the room, well, how do I know that this guy can play a Texan in the movie? And how do I know that he can direct a movie? He's from Australia. And Wilford really just would not audition for this movie, in which he was great. What was the name of it?
It was Tender Mercies.
Tender Mercies.
You slipped up the story a little bit. What happened is, because I was right there, he went in for the meeting with the director, and the director said, I'd like you to audition for Pa. And Wilford said, just what you said, I don't do that. And he said, well, I'm not so sure you can play the Pa. And Wilford said, well, I'm not so sure you can direct the goddamn movie.